Uncut Gems. The movie that feels like it was concocted in some kind of cauldron by the Safdie brothers to be as stressful as humanly possible. Now, there's a lot I could touch on in this movie, from the whole symbolism behind the opal, that psychedelic intro, the whimsical synth soundtrack, or Adam Sandler's colonoscopy? But no, I'm going to focus primarily on the most prominent aspect of Uncut Gems, which is its tension. It's no secret that anyone who's heard about this movie knows just how uncomfortable it is to watch, because of how much stress it inflicts on the main character and in turn the viewer throughout its runtime. So today, I want to take a closer look at how the Safdie brothers' methods are so successful at creating good tension, and why it works better here than in some other films that have set out to do the same thing. I'm going to say spoilers ahead, as I'm going to discuss the ending of Uncut Gems and 2014's The Gambler 2. Uncut Gems centers around a gambling addict named Howard Ratner, who owns a jewelry store in Manhattan's Diamond District in New York. He's a well-off guy who's amassed a lot of wealth and connections through what seems to be a long career of high-stakes gambling, pawning, and revenues he's earned from his business. High rollers such as KG,
KG, there he is. KG, don't you got a game tonight?
frequent Howard's jewelry shop, showcasing just how successful he is. While on the surface this all sounds like a dream come true, it soon becomes clear that Howard's irresponsible lifestyle is putting him at odds with dangerous parties within the Diamond District, and has landed him in a lot of debt. His vices have also eroded his relationship with his children over the years, who he pays little attention to, and his wife, Dina, as well, who seems to know that he's cheated on her with a co-worker at his jewelry shop, who has been his secret or not-so-secret girlfriend for some time. At the beginning of the movie, Howard owes his brother-in-law, Arno, $100,000 due to some gambling debt. At the same time, he's received a valuable opal from Africa. He believes it could be worth at least $1 million and plans to sell it at an auction in a few days. From there, Howard spends the film trying to make a fortune with the opal while paying off his brother-in-law so that his henchmen don't kill him. What makes the film so tense from here on out is that Howard keeps gambling and pawning despite already being seriously in debt. His IOUs grow and grow and grow so much that by the end of the first act, it becomes overwhelming to keep track of the bets he's made, the things he's pawned, how much money he owes, and who he owes it all to. From a strictly narrative sense, there's two types of stressors the Safdie brothers like to employ. The first is the things Howard does that land him in trouble, which I'll call internal stressors, like his gambling addiction which creates this mess in the first place. As the story unfolds, Howard keeps creating more problems that he could prevent if he had more self-control or common sense. Let's look at the opal auction for example. At this point in the narrative, KG is willing to buy Howard's opal at the auction because he has become infatuated with it. Anyone in their right mind would jump on this opportunity to cover their debt without question. But Howard believes his opal is worth far more than the auction manager does and tries to manipulate KG into spending more money by having one of his family members repeatedly outbid him in the auction. His greed ultimately puts him deeper in the hole, leaving him more indebted than before, as he now owes someone else in the family too. But it doesn't stop there. KG still buys the opal from Howard even though he knows Howard has been trying to nickel and dime him. Now, with more than enough money to pay his brother-in-law, you would think that he would immediately use this money to pay him. But no, his greed gets the better of him again, as Howard goes behind his back and gambles all the money on a basketball game, putting him in even more danger. So while the Safdie brothers are using Howard's mistakes to create tension and put us on the edge of our seats, they're implementing it in ways that reveal his wants, needs, and flaws while driving the story forward, so that by the end of the film, we feel like we completely understand who Howard is. Unlike, say, a bad horror film, where each scary scene or tense moment serves only as a cheap way to scare the audience, while ignoring character development which leaves us with shallow protagonists. The second kind of narrative stressor found in Uncut Gems, let's call these external stressors, are the situations that are out of Howard's direct control. These are littered throughout Uncut Gems moment to moment, and are what gave me the most anxiety during the movie. One of the biggest external stressors is in the first act, when Howard loans KG the opal, who gives him his championship ring as collateral. This already feels like a bad idea to begin with because we know Howard plans to sell it, and our anxiety is just compounded when we realize he's lost track of where it is. Howard then spends a good chunk of the second act trying to track it down as Damani and KG aren't returning his calls, and when he does connect with them, they actively avoid him. We begin to wonder whether he's ever going to get the opal back when KG suddenly arrives at his store, ready to return the stone. Overjoyed, Howard asks for someone to buzz KG and his entourage in, but now the door to his jewelry shop won't open. We spend 76 grueling seconds watching Howard scramble to open the door, but it just won't budge. As the seconds tick by, KG and his crew threaten to leave, and he pleads with them to stay while he resolves the problem. Nothing Howard tries to do seems to be working, and the situation looks hopeless. But just as KG is about to run out of patience, the door finally opens, and Howard is in possession of the opal once again. There are more instances like this in the story, like Arno canceling Howard's bet, or at the end of the film when his entire life comes down to the outcome of a basketball game, but more on that in a moment. When considering Uncut Gems as a whole, it becomes clear just how much stress the directors inflict on the viewer over its 2-hour runtime using these internal and external stressors. Unlike other films such as Inglourious Basterds, where tension might be built up over just a single scene for 15 minutes until it's finally released, Uncut Gems prefers to handle its stressful situations in frequent repeated doses, providing the audience with little reprieve from Howard's exhausting lifestyle. Even when you don't take the narrative into account, every other factor in this movie is designed to add another layer of stress, like the claustrophobic and sometimes shaky framing, the soundtrack by Daniel Lopatin, which is so loud sometimes you can't hear the other characters talk, or even Howard himself, who can be annoying at times. To make my final point, I want to bring up a movie called The Gambler, that is similar to Uncut Gems in terms of its narrative, but not in style. I'm going to use The Gambler because I want to compare how these two films decide to pay off the tension they've been building for their entire runtime. The Gambler is about a college professor named Jim Bennett, who loses $200,000 in an underground poker game, which lands him deep in debt with the head of the poker ring named Lee and a gangster named Barack. He is threatened with death if he can't come up with the money in a short amount of time, and spends the film trying to pay the sum while battling his gambling addiction. Just like Howard, Jim has self-destructive tendencies that come to light when he receives enough money from his rich mother to pay back the gangsters halfway through the film, only to gamble it away in a single night. Most of the tension here is really drawn out, as we wonder if the gambler can get himself under control to fix the problems he is responsible for. So let's talk about how these films handle their endings. At the end of The Gambler, Jim Bennett has won his bet at the basketball game and has managed to pay back Barack, but still owes money to Lee, the head of the poker ring, and Frank, a loan shark he borrowed money from earlier in the film. As a last resort, he plans to wager the money he has left on a single roulette spin, which would allow him to pay off the two men in one fell swoop. However, he plays knowing that not only his own life is at stake, but the lives of everyone he might care about too. Jim walks up to the roulette table, places his money on the counter, and bets it all on black.
All on black.
The table spins, and as it does, Jim stands there glassy-eyed, not even daring to look at the roulette table, as the rest of his life will be determined by this very moment. The table slowly spins to a halt, and Jim has won. He's doubled his money and is free of all his debt. Jim gives both men their share and leaves. When Frank the loan shark offers him the leftover earnings, Jim rejects him, signaling to the audience that he is finally free of his gambling addiction as well. The elated Jim then runs for miles through the streets of Los Angeles, and all the tension the film has been building is finally released, as our protagonist has escaped death. And not just that, but he's gonna get the girl in the end too. How wonderful. At the end of Uncut Gems, Howard Ratner has hedged all his bets on a basketball game with KG. He has placed all the money he made from selling the opal on the game in the hopes that he will win big time, which would allow him to pay back everyone he owes. At the same time, Howard has trapped his brother-in-law and his goons in the jewelry shop to prevent them from stopping his bet. In Howard's mind, as long as he keeps them in the shop, they won't be able to hurt his girlfriend who deposited the bet, but they'll also forgive him once he wins. As with The Gambler, if Howard loses this bet, he's a dead man. It's almost ironic that Howard's final solution will be entirely out of his hands, and that the sport he has spent his life obsessing over will ultimately decide his fate. So our protagonist spends the last 15 minutes of the movie watching a basketball game. Things look hairy at times, but as luck would have it, KG has an incredible game of basketball, and Howard wins. He's done it. His ultimate gamble has paid off. He's a millionaire, and now has enough money to pay the gangsters. So he opens his security door to celebrate with them, and Howard is shot in the head, dead, before he even hits the ground. The final insult of this film. the thing that really twists the knife, is that Uncut Gems robs us of that tension release it's been setting us, the audience, up for, taking it away from Howard the moment he's free himself. No running down the street with happy music, no happy ending with his girlfriend, and certainly no possibility for redemption. Disappointing as this ending might be at first, it forces us to contemplate how Howard got to where he was, and hammers home the lesson the film has been trying to teach us. I'm sure I'm not the only one who expected Howard to overcome his shortcomings, face his demons, and win by the end of the story, but that wouldn't be in line with who Howard is at his core. Over time, I've grown to appreciate this ending far more than that of the gamblers, because unlike Jim, Howard isn't rewarded for his irresponsible behavior, and his death, while shocking, acts as the film's final point, that a life of gambling and excess will only lead to ruin, not redemption. This is why I think Uncut Gems handles its tension so beautifully, and is far more effective because of it. But enough of my thoughts. What did you guys think of Uncut Gems? Did you think it was as stressful as everyone says? Did you like the ending? Did you hate it? I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments. Thanks for watching.